What do Confucius, Socrates, the Buddha, and Jeremiah have in common? They lived in vastly different parts of the world. They spoke unrelated languages. They offered divergent answers to life's deepest questions. And yet, they all emerged during the same narrow slice of time. Between roughly 800 and 200 BCE. Pause for a second. What are the chances that across the vast sprawl of Eurasia, disconnected civilizations would each, at the same moment in history, birth the most profound revolutions in ethical, philosophical, and spiritual thought ever recorded? Coincidence? Hardly. This uncanny simultaneity is what the German philosopher Karl Jaspers famously called the axial age, the pivotal axis in history, the hinge upon which human consciousness turned. But why then? Why there? And perhaps most intriguingly, are we witnessing another such age today? This is 5 Minutes of Culture. Let's excavate the bones of time to explore one of history's most haunting synchronicities and its potential modern reflection. Before the axial age, civilization was largely external. Kings derived power from divine favor. Religion was ritualistic, communal, and unquestioned. Morality came from tradition and law, not personal conscience. Inherited roles, unquestioned customs, and collective beliefs largely governed life. But then, somewhere, everywhere, something shifted. Humans turned inward. In India, the late Vedic period gave rise to the Upanishads. Thinkers began to turn away from ritual sacrifice toward metaphysical introspection. What is the self? What lies beyond death? This inner pursuit birthed Jainism and Buddhism, radical departures from Vedic orthodoxy that challenged caste, privilege, and ritual, offering liberation through nonviolence, detachment, and mental discipline. In China, Confucius offered a moral blueprint grounded not in gods, but in ren, benevolence, lai, ritual propriety, and the cultivation of character. Around the same time, Laozi introduced the concept of the Tao, the mysterious way underlying all things. The legalists, in contrast, insisted on pragmatic law and order. Yet all were responding to the same question: how do we create harmony in a chaotic world? In Greece, pre-Socratic philosophers like Thales, Heraclitus, and Anaximander introduced reason as a tool for understanding the universe. Then came Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Not just lovers of wisdom, but architects of logic, ethics, and epistemology. Myth gave way to logos. Thought itself became a practice. Debates about justice, virtue, and the nature of being replaced mythic explanations. Truth became inquiry, not inheritance. Meanwhile, in the Hebrew world, prophets like Isaiah, Amos, and Jeremiah redefined religion as a moral covenant. No longer was sin just disobedience to divine command. It was a violation of justice, compassion, and truth. Personal guilt and redemption emerged. Spiritual life became inseparable from social ethics. This wasn't a cultural coincidence. It was a global philosophical earthquake, a spontaneous convergence that permanently altered what it meant to be human. And the question remains, why then? Why everywhere? Here's the paradox of the axial age. It wasn't a rebellion against religion. It was an evolution within it. It didn't dismantle civilization. It reprogrammed its foundations. The new wasn't built in opposition to the old, but as a recursive code running deeper than before. The era was driven by a recurring set of questions, echoing across civilizations. Is tradition enough to guide us? Can morality stand without myth? Where does truth reside? In the heavens or in the heart? What happens when belief becomes conscious? Here's the deeper twist. What if the axial age wasn't a clean break, but a recursive upgrade? A self-aware civilization rewriting its own source code. One unmistakable thread runs through it all. The individual self became central. For the first time in history, being human meant more than just membership in a tribe or obedience to a king. It meant cultivating conscience, grappling with identity, and seeking inner transformation. It meant the soul could be understood as a project, something shaped, refined, liberated. It meant that truth might live not in temples or scriptures, but within. What do you think? Are we living through a new turn of this ancient pattern? Share your view in the comments. So what set off this massive philosophical convergence? Historians and anthropologists offer several overlapping theories. Iron Age innovations increased agricultural surplus, freeing some from subsistence labor and enabling intellectual leisure. More food meant more time and more questions. Urbanization led to the rise of anonymous, complex societies. In small tribal villages, identity was inherited. In cities, it had to be negotiated. You had to ask, who am I among strangers? Writing matured from mere record-keeping to a medium of abstract thought. Philosophy could be refined, preserved, and contested across generations. And critically, crisis, political upheaval, war, disease, and imperial expansion created fertile ground for doubt and inquiry. Civilizations were expanding. Old certainties were breaking down. Empires clashed. Insecurity bred introspection. In this volatile mix, people began to ask, if the world is unjust, must we wait for gods or build justice ourselves? If suffering is inevitable, can wisdom overcome it? If truth is fragmented, can reason find unity? And so the pattern repeated. Crisis, inquiry, inner revolution, new tradition, crisis again. This spiral may be the very engine of human progress, the pattern by which civilizations grow not just in power, but in depth. Sound familiar? Many scholars believe we may be living through another axial moment. Today, our global crises, ecological collapse, mass migration, AI disruption, epistemic confusion, are again shaking the pillars of belief. Nationalism falters, traditional religion declines, trust in institutions erodes. The once reliable maps no longer guide us. Yet amid the chaos, something stirs. Meditation apps flourish. Secular ethics re-emerge. Environmental consciousness becomes sacred. Philosophy podcasts attract millions. There is a hunger for meaning, not just information. Purpose, not just productivity. Could this be our own inward turn? Are we, like our axial ancestors, stepping beyond fear toward reflection, not as isolated individuals, but as a species waking up? Here's a thought. What if breakdown is not the end, but the beginning of the next cycle? As the old stories falter, perhaps we're being asked to author new ones, not to return to the past, but to recover its courage and build forward from there. The first axial age never truly ended. Its echoes ripple through our lives. When you wrestle with ethics, seek purpose, or meditate on being, you are living inside its legacy. Our democracies, our legal systems, our philosophies of mind, even our idea of human rights, all trace their lines back to these thinkers who dared to question everything. Socrates walks beside us when we question the state. The Buddha whispers when we search for stillness. Confucius stands in every classroom where virtue is taught. The Hebrew prophets rose in every protest against injustice. They are not past. They are possible. They are the resonance of a species learning how to ask better questions. The axial age wasn't a single moment. It was a flame passed through centuries, sparking minds across continents. Its gift wasn't answers, but better questions. And now, as we stand amid our own maelstrom, perhaps it's our turn to carry that flame forward. Not by copying the past, but by echoing its courage to ask, what matters most? Who are we becoming? How shall we live now? This was 5 Minutes of Culture. Subscribe if you're ready to explore the ages when history breathes and thought becomes revolution. Tell us below, which axial age thinker or modern voice is helping you make sense of this moment?